Happy and his pal, a robotic stowaway named Half, are on a mission. Find whoever stole Half's missing pieces and get those pieces back. After promising each other that they'd pursue even the faintest of clues to the furthest of corners, our spacefaring duo have bounced from one adventure to the next, hoping that eventually they'll end up in the right place at the right time. Their next stop, a tiny little oasis on a giant planet of star-spewing volcanoes, a place where robots melt and humans bake, and magic-imbued stars rule the land, or so they think. Happy Astronaut is perfect for readers of all ages, filled with action, humor, and heart. This debut issue will have many exciting covers to choose from, including a blank sketch cover variant to commission your very own cover. Pre-order Happy Astronaut #1 from your local comic book shop or directly from keenspotshop.com.
Recorded live from the secret underground lair of Crimson Cowl Comics and Collectibles, this is the Crimson Cowl Comic Club Podcast.
The following issues may contain spoilers. It sure is a beautiful world. I'm Anthony.
I'm Kirby.
And I'm Katie.
Welcome to issue number 269 of the Crimson Cowl Comic Club Podcast. Each and every week, we meet to talk about comic books. This particular show, we have a club discussion for another issue of Once Upon a Time at the End of the World with issue number 6, the beginning of what I believe they're calling books. So at the beginning of book 2, chapter 6. Then we're going to jump over to the weekly reviews. That's where we go back and forth, talk about the books that we've been reading, whether they're new, whether they're old. We're going to talk about them there. Then we're going to jump into the news segment, and we're going to cover all of the July 2023 previews for products coming out in September and beyond. So we'll cover the Marvel and DC catalogs, which I now just remembered to forget to bookmark, but I do have them all filled out. And then jump into the giant previews catalog for all the independent stuff, merchandise, collectibles, apparel, and everything. And that will be our show. I'm going to give one disclaimer at the top here. At work, I had to train somebody this morning, so it meant that I was talking for 4 hours straight as I was going through the routines and explaining how everything goes, and my voice was a little raspy, so I tried to tame that down a little bit. So we'll see what happens during this show here. So we will start it off here with our club discussion. I got the shiny cover here, which I believe is the Jenny Frison variant, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, the foil variant by Jenny Frison. So let me try. We got the regular one over there from Kirby, so we'll try to get some of those examples here. Here is the synopsis for Once Upon a Time at the End of the World, number 6. Mezzy and Mace found the unimaginable secluded suburban community, well preserved and filled with everything they needed to survive until adulthood. As adults, however, the highest highs of romance and contentment are shadowed by dysfunction, just as their quaint community is surrounded by the ever-present horrors of the wasteland. How long can their little piece of paradise last? All right, this issue is written by Jason Aaron, illustrated by Lila Del Duca, colored by Tamara Bonvillain, pages 1 and 26, illustrated by Alexandre Tefenki, colored by Lee Luridge, and that is it. I was just looking to see if the letters were written in there, but I don't see it. Okay, so we are going to jump into this story, beginning the brand new book with a brand new chapter, to kind of do a very quick summary of what Once Upon a Time at the End of the World is, following two younger kids who had met each other through this apocalyptic scenario, looking for this oasis, two opposite ends of kind of characteristics, with one being a fighter, one being a thinker, both kind of going out there and trying to survive and continue to live and forming a friendship and just kind of being off and on throughout throughout their adventure here, being chased down by their past. Both of them have these very rich pasts that very much tells their story as they go through. But throughout that first arc, we found them. We got a little glimpse of a very horrific future, one that we don't quite get a taste of in this one quite yet. So the creators definitely know an overall end game that they're kind of setting up here. But this brand new chapter is basically setting up, jumping into adulthood. And as I was refreshing myself with what the content of this issue was, once I got to like the second or third page, I'm like, oh, okay, I remember everything about this issue, because it is quite the romantic issue, as it said in the synopsis. There's a lot of stuff going on as Mace and Mezzy have found love, not only in the place that they are currently, but in another place, and another place, and every place that they go, everywhere, everything all at once, if you will. This issue, kind of the overall idea is them just kind of traveling the world, seeing all the sights, trying to find a place to stay, ultimately kind of coming up to an area that seems safe, and then running into toxic gas or whatever, and running into illness and things like that, finding some other people. That there's a page or two of some of that craziness going on, meeting other people that are friendlies and maybe a little too friendly at some points. A lot of stuff to really test the relationship. This is the best I can kind of just do as an overview, and it'll be very interesting as we dive into this discussion about this particular issue with Once Upon a Time at the End of the World number 6. What I will do is throw it over to Kirby first, if you had any thoughts and opinions on the beginning of chapter 2 for this series that we're reading.
This is pornography. Yeah, there wasn't much of a story here. It was basically a young teenage love affair. Yeah, it's what I asked for, but not what I asked for. I wanted to know more of the things that they did along their travels. And apparently they decided to focus on these things that they did throughout their travels.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could have summed that up in a couple pages and not pulled it through the whole book, I don't think. Leela Del Duca, I think, really enjoys drawing penises.
Just nudity in general, I would say, maybe that's the
Yeah.
reason why, because this is a different. I don't think they were part of the previous arc, because I remember Alexander Tefenki, who does have pages in here. So I'm guessing maybe that just for the specific idea, and then probably move past it as we go on further issues. But it seems like, all right, they must have sought out a specific talent, and I'm curious to see what else they've done, because these are the pages that they did. So
Yeah. But yeah, I like where it took us and everything. We got some answers we needed with issue 6, but yeah, I'm curious where it's gonna go from here and stuff. But yeah, nice.
Yeah. Yeah, like I was just trying to like look for any meat within this issue to discuss, because a lot of the themes is what we talked about. It just with them kind of exploring their relationship, but also just kind of traveling the world and stuff. And assuming by the end of this issue that this was probably the one issue that they're covering it, and then they're moving forward from it. That's my assumption there. Jump over to Katie. Thoughts on Once Upon a Time at the End of the World number 6.
Yeah, you're gonna get mad. Well, maybe you won't. I didn't like this one. I'm sorry. I did not like this one. I don't think that the creative team was trying to be confrontational. This is just my experience with it. I did not like this one. For most of the reasons you have both already listed. It also triggered an anxiety in me. For a couple of reasons. Number one, like Mace is going to get. No, which one? The girl, Mezzy, Esmeralda. Esmeralda's going to get pregnant, and like being pregnant in that world is not just incredibly irresponsible, it is beyond dangerous. And I just kept waiting for her to be like, I'm pregnant. And now on top of all this other like literal garbage, now she's got to deal with bringing a new life into this world, and like they don't even have a place to like live. So that made me very, 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 very anxious. I remember being 10 years old and getting my period, and my mom told me, well, you have to be careful now because technically you could get pregnant and have a baby. And that's kind of exactly how I felt reading all of this. I'm like, did somebody skip that part of reproductive education for them? That repeated intimacy and sexual exposures can lead to having a baby. So that made me very, very anxious because, yeah, oh my God, I can't even explain that. Like, hits like the part of my lizard brain that like freaks out about stuff like that. Clearly, I need to resolve this in therapy, but
No, I totally agree with you on that aspect because that was driving me nuts. And then the multiple relationships along with it, who's going to be the mother of the kid in the long run and all that stuff. It's like, yeah, I totally
yeah.
where you're coming from.
And when
Thank you. I thought I was just being crazy. Thank you.
And when Katie mentioned about, them not even having a home, the best home that is represented is a bathtub in the middle of
Yeah.
like
I'm
where
like, enjoy your parasites, guys. Like we thought STDs were the biggest problem. Now, like, I mean, when you are making love on literal trash piles, man, that's just got to be painful. Like, you're gonna get, man.
yeah.
This was a no for me. I thought I was just being crazy and too sensitive. I could have handled a few pages of it, but this whole comic was just intercourse and sex for the sake of it. Like, it didn't actually serve anything. I felt like we could have checked out like about 2/3 of that and just gone to like the last part where they find the oasis, because that was cool.
Yeah.
I resent the implication that being sexually active makes you an adult or not, because like, what about people who are asexual or due to disabilities or the way their body is, choose not to engage in sexual activity, or for like religious reasons choose to become celibate? I don't think that makes somebody less of an adult or less able to express love. Like, as far as I'm concerned, you want to know intimacy with another person, see them when they're at their lowest and they physically cannot take care of themselves, and you have to do things like help them get dressed, spoon feed them applesauce because they are in too much pain to eat. That will teach you what love is. That will show you what it is to know someone so well. So I do kind of also resent that implication. It obviously is triggering something in me. So gotta book some therapy appointments, but yeah, this issue was a no for me. Go ahead.
Another part of that whole thing that drove me nuts was every time they did have intercourse, they were getting married. It's
like commit already.
Let's get married here. Why don't you just get married and pretend, and then live life? I mean, using that representation is basically a representation of having intercourse outside of marriage, but you're pretending like you're getting married every time. I don't know. That drove me nuts.
Yeah, that was an interesting stylistic choice, because I went along the first time. I'm like, yeah, you guys should get married, and then I'm like, you guys keep talking about getting married but aren't willing to commit. So like, are you actually ready to get married? I don't know. That is a very good point. Thank you for bringing that up. I hadn't considered that. I will say this felt a little bit like it was written through the male gaze. Like, I know it gets a lot of jokes and oftentimes is not warranted, but it did feel a little bit like, yes, this was written by a straight white male. And I am completely just messing around. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, but I definitely felt like if this were written with a female creative lead, it might have had a different perspective and maybe it would have resonated differently with me. But yeah, this one was a no for me. If this had been the first issue I had picked up, I probably would have quit this whole series, but I will give it another shot. But that's my read on it. What do you think?
Yeah,
I would expect this much stuff out of Money Shot that I'm reading now. And Money Shot's lighthearted compared to this.
Yeah, I think, like within the context of what that Money Shot book is, you would expect this kind of thing. And then this was very jarring when you open it up.
Yeah.
And I think what Kirby said, you could probably get it done just with the couple pages, and
agreed.
The fact that it is the majority of the issue. And I was looking through Layla's art just to kind of see like what else she's worked on and stuff. And it's not like her, Instagram is just full of like nude models or anything like that. So I was kind of curious how that led to bringing on this artist, and
Mhm.
I'm just trying to think now if she was part of the last book or not, but I think it just because of what happens in here, it just kind of like,
Yeah,
okay, we're looking into it a little further, but
right.
I'm trying to remember if her name was attached, but
Yeah, I
um,
would rather had a couple more pages at the end showing us
Agreed.
happens and then exploring that a little more.
Yeah. I agree. That would be cool. That would make the payoff worth it. They've been looking for this place for years at this point. Yeah.
but yeah, I think after, going through what we've seen in the first arc, and I don't think it's maybe unexpected to kind of see what they were doing, but I think with just the once again the detail and just how long the reader had to just go through all that, it seemed like a different book. So
Yeah. And
I
like
got this,
I
but I
don't
didn't.
hold any animosity to the creative team. Like it's clearly a me issue. But thank you guys for letting me vent because I was afraid I would be bringing down the mood, but I appreciate your perspectives.
I
Sorry,
agree.
Kirby.
I agree with you 100%.
Thanks.
like
Thank you.
if this was the first issue of the series and it was just sex upon a time and at the end of the world, you go in with the implications of being like, oh
Yeah.
well, this is the direction of the book, but just because we just finished that arc and we're moving ahead to seeing them now as adults and then just getting that
Hmm.
yeah, jarring is the best word I can kind of come up with, of just being like, but yeah, I
Like
mean, yeah.
the way I looked at it too was I look at this. I'm afraid like I said, I got issue number 7, but I haven't looked at it yet. And I'm afraid that they're going the Pulp Fiction line where they're going to fall back and go back to a bunch of stuff and we're going to be bouncing around all over the place. And the key thing of Pulp Fiction was the sex scene and stuff. So
Hmm.
it's like, I don't know if that person that was part of this is into that line of movie works, but I can't stand that stylization. And
Yeah.
that's not what they're going to do with the next round, but I'll at least check out the next couple, see where it goes.
Yeah, I think by the
Yeah.
time
Same.
yeah, with the way that
Go
this
ahead.
issue ends, just talking about them finding the oasis, it feels like this was kind of a one-off issue of this content, and it feels like we'll probably, kind of pick up where we left off as far as what this book has been about, but we'll see. Any other thoughts about this issue from anyone? All
No, I'm
right.
good.
I think that will do it. So yeah, that was a very interesting one. And then I paid a little extra for it because I got the foil cover just because Jenny Frison did the variant cover. Um, I just thought about that now, just being like, but yeah. Anyways,
And do that
yeah.
with number.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for this issue. We did do that first arc, and then we all kind of agreed collectively that we would jump on. I knew I was going to continue on no matter what, but we were wondering if we were going to continue on as a club. So we'll just kind of continue to assess that as we see what this new arc brings. And the one thing I was going to do, I got to bring up a message from Eric here because I think he caught up with the series. And let's see. Let's see here. Oh, I thought he had said something about it. Okay, I think that was he must have. I think he read the other one, so that's right. Just wanted to make sure to see if he had any comments about it. Okay, so yeah, that is going to do it for Once Upon a Time at the End of the World number 6. On the upcoming club discussion docket, we're going to have the Punisher number 12 issue. It's been out for a while, but we're waiting for the schedules to align to have Eric back on the show to talk about the finale of this mini series, maxi series, whatever you want to call it, and then future issues of Once Upon a Time. We have a one shot for Berserker Poetry of Madness, one shot of Marvel Age 1000, a 4-issue miniseries, Marvel Unleashed, which is about all the Marvel pet and animal characters. And so that is their upcoming club discussion. Maybe that's what it's the upclubbing, and that's what we'll call it now. This is what's up clubbing. And when we cover the previews later on in the show, that's when we kind of decide what club picks to do in the future. And so we'll see if we find any as we journey on into the news later on. But that is going to do for the club discussion. Let's jump over to the weekly reviews. Welcome to the weekly reviews. I'm going to kick it off with the title that I was very much anticipating. I had danced around spoilers because in the Amazing Spider-Man number 26, there was a big Marvel death in that issue. That was surprising just because the character that had died was not actually, normally part of the Amazing Spider-Man title. So it's not like your Mary Jane, your Peter, your May, Harry, things like that. And what Marvel likes to do, since the previews come out, 2 months in advance, they'll always kind of have these classified stories that they don't give you any information on. If you're a Marvel, fanatic, a Marvel, I don't know, I can't think of the word. There's a certain name for it, but oh, if you're a Marvel zombie, that's usually what they call it, like somebody who's just gets everything Marvel. So if you are a Marvel zombie, most likely you pre-ordered a book that you had no idea what it was going to be about and who was even writing or drawing it, and a cover or a title and a description. I am one of those people, so I picked up this one shot that is called Fallen Friend, and it was later revealed to have a subtitle. So this is your moment right now. If anybody who is listening or watching at home that is behind on their comics and behind on the Amazing Spider-Man series and didn't somehow miss the news about this, I dance around spoilers more than most, the internet, I should say. So this is the subtitle for Fallen Friend. It is called The Death of Ms. Marvel. So in that issue number 26, actually, let me read the synopsis here quick. Kamala Khan died a hero's death in Amazing Spider-Man number 26, saving our entire universe. Come join the other heroes of the Marvel Universe, the creators of Ms. Marvel, and comic fans everywhere in honoring and remembering one of Marvel's brightest stars. This comic is done by a great amount of people. We have G. Willow Wilson, Mark Waid, and Saladin Ahmed. We have Takeshi Miyazawa, Humberto Ramos, and Andrea DeVito, Victor Alazaba, Ian Herring, and Edgar Delgado, and VC's Ariana Mayer. I think I did that pretty good. A lot better than I thought I was going to do. All right, so Ms. Marvel is my favorite modern day superhero creation, and got all of her comics and her toys, and bought a PlayStation video game that she's a star of, even though I don't have a PlayStation to play it on. But I watched the whole game on YouTube because I didn't feel like buying a PlayStation for it. But I bought the game because Ms. Marvel's on a video game. Big fan of her TV show, her upcoming appearance in the Marvels movie for the MCU. And what they've been doing, it's one of the synergy type of things that sometimes will happen. We've seen it with Guardians of the Galaxy, where Guardians is getting a movie and Star-Lord, starts acting like Chris Pratt in the comic books. They do it for a while and then they kind of get back to, kind of how it, kind of find their own path within the comics a little bit, but still keeping some of those traits and personalities and sometimes appearances and such. So what's going on when they announced that it was the death of Ms. Marvel, it was a surprise. As I was spoiler free when I read it in Amazing Spider-Man. It was a very heroic death, very shocking as you turn the page to see what had happened. But it was super cool the way she sacrificed herself to save everybody. And then the information about this one shot came about, in which this was going to be a tribute issue about the character. I don't think I showed the cover. Here is the cover, with a bunch of the Marvel heroes that have had a lot of connection with Kamala over the years. And that's what you get as you go through this book. You get basically her family and friends, going to worship, and they're going to, prayer, and they're both, her identity is kept secret, and they're talking about the loss that a lot of people, some people have died, and a very coincidence that you've got Kamala Khan and Ms. Marvel. They're not really dealing with the idea that, both are one and the same, but that kind of thing happens. Clark Kent dies and Superman dies, but, it just happened to be two very, casualties from people that look similar to each other, except one wears glasses. And with this story, all these different writers and all these different artists are taking a different chapter. People that have worked on Kamala Khan stories throughout the years are telling all these different champions, with Ms. Marvel's family and friends in her neighborhood in Jersey City. You've got a chapter all about the champions. So you see all the young heroes that that was led by Kamala and everybody else that kind of broke off from the Avengers several years back when they realized that all the Avengers do is fight themselves. So they created the champions so they can actually help people. There is a chapter about the Avengers, and that's where you got some of the more prominent and established Avengers heroes that you would know, your Doctor Stranges, your Iron Mans, your Captain Americas, and everyone's taken turns to come in and say their words. There's a very touching moment with Wolverine because that was one of the earliest. That may have been the first like big Marvel crossover like cameo in Ms. Marvel's book outside of Captain Marvel. Was Wolverine and Kamala, basically joining up on a very fun mission because it was Kamala freaking out the whole time that it's Wolverine from the X-Men, and he has no idea who she is. And then there's another great moment because this is spawned outside of a Amazing Spider-Man book or spawned from a Spider-Man book. Definitely Peter Parker Spider-Man has a little moment himself too of dealing with this, with the fact that he's still alive. Awesome. He's still alive because of what the sacrifice that Ms. Marvel has made. So as far as as far as an issue goes to attribute to a character of a comic book death, very expertly done, very sweet, very emotional, awesome collaboration from everybody involved. But if you are a fan of comic books and if you've been reading for a minute or two, you'll also know that this ain't going to last long. I remember hearing that. It's just like, well, she's going to be in a big movie this coming November, so I'm sure the character will come back in September or October, and then launch of a new series, great advertising, get a trade paperback out and everything. And at this moment, we do have the news about Kamala Khan and when she's coming back later in the fall. And it is one of those things that's going to eventually kind of work with that synergy between the movies and the comics, where to leave spoilers out of the Ms. Marvel show if you have not seen it on Disney Plus. It's been out a year, but new movie coming out in fall. There are things that they've done with her powers where they added some stuff and did a couple different things. They took a different path. Eventually they get to the point where we are in the comics with her powers and how she deals with them and experiences them, but we take a little detour to get there and we pick up some new powers along the way. And there's basically a lot of exciting stuff happening with Kamala Khan in a big, huge way that fully on would explain why this teenage superhero comes back from the dead. I was pretty excited to see the news because I get to buy a lot more Kamala Khan covers, and I'm sure they'll have all these tribute things across all these books, and I'm excited for it. So even if my favorite character died in one issue, I knew there was only be a couple more months until I get to experience more Kamala stories. As far as this goes, this was an excellent one issue, one shot read. That is Fallen Friend, The Death of Ms. Marvel. All right, Kirby.
Yeah, you don't have to worry this day and age. If they kill them off, they'll just bring a multiverse version back and you'll always have our characters. We got Mangoat and the Bunnyman 2023 spring special from Xenoscope. It's the Mangoat and Bunnyman 2023 spring special filled with cryptids, monsters, and maybe an exploding egg or two. Don't miss this double-sized special issue as Phil and Floyd go on an epic adventure to rescue his long-lost father from the clutches of an evil freak show magnate who wants to add the two heroes to his menagerie of strange creatures. Written by Joe Bruscia, artwork by Guillermo Fajardo, and colors by Walter Pereira. This is enjoyable as all of them have been, but I was confused as I'm reading it at first because I could have swore the last one shot we spent trying to get the Bunnyman's father and save him and all that stuff, and we had a whole issue about that, but now he's captured again and they have to try and save him. And we got our character that's a rich magnate that's just setting up kind of a cryptid house where he's got all these different type of cryptid creatures locked up in cages. He sells them to the highest bidder. He trades them. I think they do hunts with them and stuff like that. They didn't show it, but they kind of talked in that manner, like they're gonna do stuff like that. We got like gargoyle type characters in the cages and stuff. Just all kinds of interesting things that go way beyond just cryptid style creatures into the monster realm and all that. And then he finds out about Man Goat and Bunnyman hunting down his dad. So he's like, well, I'll pay to have them and I'll swap you their dad for. And he was basically doing a swap with another billionaire, and they're working a deal. And our two main characters get them, well, they didn't plan on getting caught, but they end up getting caught, and then they find out about all these cryptids and monsters in the cages and stuff, and of course they gotta try and find a way to save them while also trying to save his dad. We get some nice back history in here. They go into a whole backstory about what happened with the Bunnyman's dad and how he got caught and who was after him back in the time. And we get a variety of different hunter characters that are hunting the cryptids and stuff that they have to deal with, which I can see future issues focusing on each individual person that's part of this different party of collectors and stuff. They all sound like they're all a bunch of billionaires just swapping things and for their own amusement. So they have these things for their friends and clients to look at when they come to their house for dinner and stuff. It just, yeah. But yeah, the one character has a way to somehow take the powers of other beings. So he's kind of like a scientist. That's the Bunnyman's dad there, that's getting ready to get operated on. But he's got a way to take certain powers from the cryptids and then use the powers himself. And he did some Satan worshiping and all that to get all these different powers and learn about these things. That's why he got into collecting. But yeah, it was fun. Get to see a lot of creatures busting out and getting their revenge and fighting through this whole storyline. But it's a nice double issue, like they said. It was a good read. But yeah, that was fun. I was just confused because it's like we just saved Pops. Now we're saving Pops again. So it's kind of like the storyline didn't switch up between those two. It kind of felt like, but I gotta look back, see if there were different writers and artists involved in the other ones or something. But yeah, I enjoy the Man Goat and Bunnyman. So.
Cool. All right, let's jump over to Katie. What you got for us?
All right, this week I have Dune, the official movie graphic novel. Now, there is also Dune, the official graphic novel, which can get kind of confusing. One's adapting the book, one's adapting the 2021 movie, and I brought the movie one this week. Now, this is a shot-for-shot, line-for-line adaptation of the movie. It neither adds nor takes anything away from that. It's a good movie. If you like sci-fi, I think you should give it a shot, even if you're not a huge Dune fan. And if you like Dune, you should probably check out this comic book. I really appreciate the art in this, especially the use of lighting and shading and color grading to imitate the incredible cinematography in the movie. I'm wondering if this was drawn by like a portrait artist, or is this just like AI? Because the characters look like the actors playing them. Like Paul looks like Timothée Chalamet, Chani looks like Zendaya, and it's very, very good likeness. Sometimes in adaptations they're just not, but this is really good. I do appreciate the details in here. If you're a super book nerd, you know, they did make a few slight changes for the movie, and those are represented in here. It doesn't bother me, and I'm not entirely worried about spoilers on a story that's the better part of 60 years old. But just keep that in mind. I really enjoyed this. Who is this for? So I guess like a Dune super fan, or like a collector. And then I'm like, well, why wouldn't I just watch the movie? Because I mean, it's like they literally printed out the movie. And I'm like, well, maybe if I only had a half hour, and I was like, man, I really feel like watching Dune today, but I don't have the better part of like 3 hours to sit and watch an epic cinematic film. I'm like, I could just take a half hour and read this book and, get Dune the highlight reel. It ends in the same place the movie does, with Paul and Lady Jessica going out into the desert with the Fremen. And the Battle of Arakeen has happened, and they escaped. So it's the same point. I got this from the library. I don't know that I would pay for it. I think it retails for around $20, which I would also recommend getting this from the library unless you're a super collector. But that being said, it was still really good, and I did enjoy it, especially for what it was. Let me get you the creative team real quick. So it was based upon the novel by Frank Herbert, adapted by the screenplay. The screenplay was written by Denis Villeneuve, Eric Roth, John Spates. The graphic novel script was written by Lila Sturges, illustrated by Drew Johnson, and colored by Zid Nizam, and the main cover is Bill Sienkiewicz. Anyway, that is my review. Check it out. It was pretty fun. Dune, the official movie graphic novel.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm always thinking about that too. Anytime I come across like a adaptation and stuff, and I'll be the only one that talks about Archie and Dune in the same sentence when comparing adaptations, because Archie, I talked about on the show probably last year, the year before, but the comic adaptation of the TV movie to Riverdale and back again, where it was a direct adaptation, but they included flashbacks because the movie is about them, their reunion, and I don't know if it's like 20 years after high school or something. But the flashbacks they did in the comic book were all new, and they did that in a classic Archie drawing style, whereas the adaptation portion of them as adults was done in a more realistic style.
Oh, cool.
And it was such a unique thing that, for something that probably not too many people have read, because not too many people even know about that TV movie from 1990. But anytime I think about adaptations, I always think about that kind of thing. Like, it's a unique way to kind of throw in deleted scenes and such. But I'm always curious to see how anything is adapted, if it's a novelization or something like that. So
yeah, it worked pretty well. And compared to some of the other like screen to page adaptations I've read, like the Star Wars ones, I thought this actually did a better job. It was still quality for being what it was. Yeah. Cool. I love it.
All right. Speaking of adaptations, but not really, because it's a sequel. That's the best segue I can give for this. I am talking about Creed, the next round, issue number 1. 10 years after the events of the blockbuster Creed 3, Amara Creed is on her own path, stepping outside her father Adonis Creed's shadow and training like there's no tomorrow. But when her division opponents no longer present a challenge, Amara's drive will have her following in her father's footsteps, going underground. She'll also need the perfect trainer, but perfection comes with tangled strings attached. This comic is done by the creative director, Michael B. Jordan, writers Latoya Morgan and Jai Jamison, colorist DJ Chavez, artist Wilton Santos, and letterer and world design. I love the Creed movies. There are 3 of them. The third one came out this past winter, and they are a franchise sequel to the Rocky movies, which I own, but I'm not real passionate about. I enjoy them, but Creed took me to the next level, where it's very accessible, new trilogy that you don't have to see the Rocky movies to enjoy. I think they do a very good job of telling its own story while also ushering all of the Rocky history. And I love those movies so much, and I love the direction that they took in the number 3 movie, thinking, oh, there's definitely some opening for them to revisit these characters. And I was shocked to see that it was going to happen in a comic book. Now, I hope it still happens in a movie somewhere down the road. Light spoilers for Creed 3, but at the end of Creed 2, we found out with them having their daughter, characters of Michael B. Jordan and I don't know why her name, she's one of my favorite people, and the name just dropped out of my head right there. Tessa Thompson. I was going to say Valkyrie at first, but that's her in the Marvel Universe. So Michael B. Jordan and Tessa Thompson's characters, after the second movie, they're going into this third movie, now having a daughter, and the daughter's much older. We saw her as a baby, but now she's, however old she is in that third movie. And what's interesting is watching her character observe the fame and the heights of fame that Adonis Creed has reached as a boxing champion. And she's very interested. You see that she's definitely interested in boxing and what her father does. And there's a fun scene in that third movie where she is basically in hiding as she's watching YouTube fights, the fights of from her father on YouTube, the actual boxing matches and such. And she's doing this in secret. It's something that they're trying, maybe not, she gets to a certain age, maybe not show her, access her to videos of, her dad getting punched in the face pretty brutally and stuff. That could probably do something to a child, but she has nothing but full on attention and interest in that movie. And without spoiling Creed 3, it's just such a good way of setting up like a future trilogy if they were to do it. And then here came the comic book. So led by the creative director of Michael B. Jordan, I think this is done extremely well. We see Amara, who is teenage years. So yeah, this is 10 years after the actual movie, and we see her training. She's in the boxing ring. Her parents have gotten to the point where like, all right, we're not saying no to this. It's anyone if you have actor parents, and whether or not they're going to let their children go into the business and stuff like that. They battle all those kind of tropes that you would normally expect in stories like this. But while they're letting her go ahead with boxing, the cool little thing in here is just that you still have the moment of Adonis still trying to hold her back, knowing she's going to be treated differently with being the daughter of the world champion, and she knows that she's being treated differently, and she wants a real challenge. She thinks she's ready for to go to the next level, but they don't want her to get hurt, and being very protective parents and such. And that obviously leads to the story of her going underground, as the synopsis says, as she goes to these underground boxing matches and stuff like that. And even when she tries to put on a disguise and dress a little differently and use a different name and just try to, I'll keep forgetting to show some of the pictures here, but when she tries to set herself aside from the legacy of her father, there are people that notice who she is right away, and that definitely comes into the story with how these matches are dealt with when people actually do know who she is, and she's doing all these fights basically in secret to her parents. I thought this was a pretty awesome first issue. I think it would probably still work as like a one time, if you're a boxing fan and for some reason haven't seen Rocky or Creed. I'm trying to think like how accessible is a number one comic that is a 10-year sequel to a franchise that in itself is a trilogy sequel to what, 5 or 6 Rocky movies, over the decades. It's got all of these layers going into it. So I'm trying to wonder if this is appealing to anybody who just happened to see, a female boxer. I think it does a good job of just really setting it up that you get the idea like, yep, her father is a world champion. She wants to do the same. And I think it does a good job. You don't need a lot of backstory beyond what they give you within the context of the story. I thought it was great. This is a 4-issue miniseries. I'm excited for more, and I hope this ain't a replacement for a possible movie or trilogy following this character down the line if they were to revisit the franchise in another decade or so. Because I would like to actually see a film version as well, but I'm very happy that the comic version exists. So I thought this was excellent. That is Creed, the next round, #1. And I think that will conclude all of the comics about boxing that I'll talk about in the Crimson Cowl Comic Club. So unless they do a Mike Tyson's Punch Out Nintendo version of a comic book, then I'll talk about that down the road. So, all right, jump over to Kirby.
Hey, we got Moonhead and the Music Machine. This is by Andrew Ray Nobrow. Meet Joey Moonhead, a normal kid and in every way, except one. He has a moon for a head. Equipped with little else but a boundless imagination and an insatiable desire to be the best musician in existence, Joey Moonhead embarks on a stellar mission to create a machine that is out of this world. Yeah, he wants to, there's like a school thing going on, and he wants to do something musically, and he doesn't have no good instrument or nothing, but he's a tinker. He likes to build things and stuff. And so does his dad. He learned from his dad. And he wants to, his dad gives him some supplies that he can have from the shop and use. And he works on making himself a device that he could possibly play a musical instrument. It's like there's all kinds of fun artwork throughout this whole storyline, different interesting little things where his mind goes, and then they take what's in his mind and give it a unique artistic view. I was hoping I could find a spot of his first musical item that he made, but basically he's going through school dealing with all the things you got, the bullies, of course. He's got a moon for a head, so he's going to be picked on by the jocks and all that. And of course, he's got a girl that he falls in love with, and this gets that one gets a little risque, but he's got another girl that has a thing for him, but he kind of pushes her off to the side throughout the story. And we've all heard those type of things before. There's the jocks that like to pick on him every day and find out that he's trying to get into this music thing. And the one of the I got a stupid scratch right in the back of my throat. One of the jocks so happens to have a rich father that runs a musical, like a music company of sorts. So he's trying to get Moonhead to come over by him to show him how to use his device so he can take it over. But his first device didn't work out too well. And so you can see, he just draws up his little blueprints for what he's going to make. It's kind of like a keyboard with a guitar and a trumpet all thrown together. Basically shows all the different instruments that he kind of wants to combine into it. Equalizer and all that. And he makes a unique item, but it just doesn't really play the way he wants it to. And eventually that device gets damaged, and he runs into a person that kind of made me quickly jump back to the cover and make sure who was part of this book, because I'm like, is Brenna Thumler working in this book? And it's like, Sheets is in here. What's he doing in this storyline?
Wendell.
Well,
Yeah, it looks uncannily like him.
Yeah. They become friends, and the Sheets character ends up playing the instrument, and when he plays the instrument, all kinds of things happens to everybody around them. They start feeling differently. They start becoming different type of people. There's a good picture of a bunch of them. They end up turning into different types of characters, and some turns into like long elongated people, blob type people, just all kinds of interesting. Everybody just starts turning into different types of, basically their real person is coming out of their body after they hear this music that comes from this machine. And he's like afraid to play the instrument that he made, and that's why he gets Wendell, the Sheets character, to play the music for him. And it is an older story, so I'm gonna ruin it for everybody. I don't know if you can find this book anymore, but basically the Sheets character ends up being a figment of his imagination in the long run. And he actually was playing the instrument and didn't realize it, but he's been always afraid throughout the book to play the instrument because he thinks that the Sheet's character had the ability to do it, and Wendell just did the singing and stuff like that. But yeah, he learns a lot about it, and then the people learn a lot about themselves that listen to their music, and then of course you got the little side stories with the jocks and the mean people and messing with them. Geez, you got the whole broke them all.
The rubber band broke and they all fell. Go ahead. I wasn't supposed to make any noise. That should have been muted.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Then they have little special music covers for different songs that they played. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. This would go wonderfully alongside Brenna Thumler's Sheets books. The characters kind of synced up so well in both the storylines.
Do you remember where you got that, or was it just sitting in the collection?
This was one of those Shelley out at half price books. Mm-hmm. Picked it up. I was just trying to use some alcohol to rub off the stupid sticker stuff that was on here, and I ruined part of my cover. But yeah, she came across this, I believe, at either a half price books or one of our other bargain bookstores when they were out and about shopping. But yeah, it was one that I'm like, looks interesting. And it's I think I read this thing in a couple hours. It was a really, really quick read. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I want to know more about the Moonhead character. I don't know if he had any more books or not.
Okay, cool. And you've got the last pick as well, so you can jump right into the next one.
All right, we talked about Octobriana and the Full Tilt Boogie, I believe it was called last time, issue number 1 of 2. Well, this is the Full Tilt Boogie. Sorry about that. I got Octobriana and the Underground Full Tilt Boogie, number 1 of 2. That came in, so I figured I'd check it out, and just as much fun as the last one. But we have 3 different stories in this one. We got previously by Stu Taylor, Simon Fraser, and Josh Reed, which kind of gives us a look back at her past history, dealing basically with she's doing what she can for Russia, and we're getting to learn of some of the other superheroines that got the powers that she got. And then this one, they kind of go back in time through a VR unit when they're checking out when they're trying to deal with the entity in this storyline that they're dealing with. They had to use VR to go into it. That's how they go back in history. And we get to learn more about some of the other girls that we didn't know about. Well, I didn't know about at least. And then we got Doxing Match by Lucy James, Simon Ragazzoni, Ellie Wright, and Hassan Atsmin Elu. I'm trying my best at these names. The art styles were, it's like they jumped all over the place in these stories, but we still get all our main characters. In this one, she travels around in this sphere thing. That's her Octobriana's main home, and it can jump through space and time, and that's what they do. And she's got her gorilla sidekick that's a highly intelligent gorilla human type character, and he runs all the electronics for her and stuff. But in this one, I'd really like to, I want to research and go back on this because I'm really curious about with us reading Hellboy and everything, and this, how much this jumps on the Baba Yaga stories and what's his name, Ram, whatever, from the Hellboy series. But here's our Baba Yaga character in this storyline. She's got her little chicken legs and stuff. But yeah, we get this basically focuses on her and dealing with her trying to take down Octobriana again. Seems like her and Baba Yaga fight a lot throughout these stories. Then we got Red Girl Summer Part 1, God Hates a Coward by Stu Taylor and Stephen Harris, Sophie Dodson, and Josh Reed. And this story kind of has a Western feel to it. Well, they go back and deal with the Soviets again, and dealing with, of course, them trying to take over the world and all that, and then Octobriana coming in and fighting with all the characters along the way. But it's like it is. It says part 1, so it just doesn't really give us too much detail in that story and leaves us hanging on what's going to be happening. But they're trying to take down basically a bunch of vehicles full of weaponry and stuff that are on their way to cause a bunch of chaos. But yeah, this one was just as much fun as the first one. It's done by Dead Good Comics, which I've never heard of before. But yeah, it's Octobriana, very interesting Soviet style superheroine that she's a badass. I like her.
Cool. All right, that is going to do it for the weekly reviews, but we have another awesome segment, and that is the news.
And now the news.
Welcome to the previews preview. To catch up on the missed episodes we had in the last couple weeks, we're going to do all of them, the July catalogs for products coming out in September and beyond, starting with Marvel, going on to DC, and then the independent catalog, however we see fit. We jump in and talk about the books that we are excited for, shed a little light on them, and we'll jump into Marvel. I'll kick it off here with it's a one-shot here. Werewolf by Night, issue number 1. In the shadows of black and white night, Jack Russell races to halt to the sacrifice of a young girl at the hands of monsters. Elsa Bloodstone, in all of her colorful monster hunting glory, isn't far behind, but can put their differences aside long enough to save the day. And what would such a partnership even look like? We're almost, well, yeah, we'll come up on a year just about for the Werewolf by Night, the awesome special presentation movie that they did for Disney Plus within the MCU. I'm surprised this didn't come a little further, but obviously leading into the spooky month, we've got this one shot of Werewolf by Night here, and Elsa Bloodstone's on the cover, which is what drew my attention. Not familiar with the creative team here, but it's a one shot, and I'm definitely going to be checking it out. So that's Werewolf by Night, issue number 1.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll be checking that one out too.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, got another one shot for you. Alligator Loki.
Yes.
Alligator Loki makes a splash in his print comic debut. Bow down to the reptile in a helm who has enraptured the 10 realms with his cuteness. First, Alligator Loki chomped down on Mjolnir, and then he chomped his way into our hearts. Now the beloved alligator of mischief finds and makes trouble all across the Marvel Universe in his very own comic. Collecting the hit Infinity Comics series from the Marvel Unlimited app, this one-shot includes a never-before-seen adventure in the life of everyone's favorite swamp-dwelling scamp. Don't care much for Loki, but I like Alligator Loki.
Good. Jump over to Katie. Anything for Marvel?
Yeah, I also thought Alligator Loki looked good. So Alligator Loki, seconded.
Did you have another one you want to jump into at all?
Sure. The Star Wars Scoundrels and the Empire trade paperback. It's just collecting all the Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary issues. I wanted to pick those up, but didn't get them in singles, so get in the trade. And I think that's it for Marvel for me.
Okay. I'll be talking about Silver Surfer Rebirth Legacy, a new 5-issue miniseries here. The Sentinel of the Spaceways has taken the son of Captain Marvel, Genis, under his wing, but even the power cosmic can't replace the love of a father. The Surfer knows something that might just be able to soothe a broken heart, but is it worth the clash with the Infinity Watch? Beloved creators Ron Mars and Ron Lim return to a story from their celebrated run on the Silver Surfer, and they're not the only time travelers. This creative team did an awesome run in the 90s on Silver Surfer, which is considered volume 3 in the overall Legacy run. They did a mini series, I think it was last year, I forget, but they had recently done a Legacy one, but or a Rebirth one, and now they're kind of revisiting this, and yeah, so more Silver Surfer kind of placed into the timeline of their old legendary story, Silver Surfer Rebirth Legacy #1. Kirby?
Yeah, I'll probably be getting that one too. And then we got Spine Tingling Spider-Man #01 shot.
Yes.
The most terrifying Spider-Man story ever. Spider Slayers and a Smite. A song that once heard will not allow you to sleep. One of the worst threats to Aunt May you've ever experienced. And first time in print collecting the Infinity Comics series from the Marvel Unlimited app. And I like it's a one shot. I like its individual stories, so I'll check it out for that.
Cool. I think I've read some of that on the Marvel Unlimited app when it came through, but yeah, a lot of interesting stuff and a pretty cool cover that they so they have a Peach Momoko cover, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not sure.
But yep. Oh, the variant is. Yeah, they got a regular one on the one page, but on the yep. Yeah, as far as new stuff, I think with what we've all said, because I mentioned Alligator Loki as well. So that is 3 people that have mentioned Alligator Loki. And that was a one shot, was that correct?
Yep.
Because yeah, we got us 3 that are on board for it, so I can make a note of that so I could let the other club members know. And we're going to be talking a lot of Marvel animals and pets and creatures and stuff this coming fall with club discussions with the Marvel Unleashed, which issue 2 is part of this catalog. And now Alligator Loki. So I'm making myself a note so I don't forget. But that is going to do it for my Marvel stuff. Do you have any to finish with, Kirby?
Yeah, I got 2 left that I'm thinking about just because I love the character combos. Another Uncanny Spider-Man #1 by Marvel Comics. I don't want to get into the run, but I want to at least check out the first issue. The Night-Crawling Wall Crawler. On the darkest of days, he is the spark in the shadows. After the devastating events of the Hellfire Gala, Kurt Wagner is on the run and having the time of his life. Swashbuckling about New York City in disguise, the uncanny wall crawler sets aside his mutant angst and dedicates himself to the hero's life, saving civilians, hanging with fellow wall crawlers, battling baddies, and hunting down the best pizza on the planet. But he can't ignore the mutant plight forever. And I always like Nightcrawler. Letting him play Spider-Man, that sounds kind of fun.
Yeah,
then,
that was a cool cover. I remember seeing that one.
Yeah. Then the last one was Venom Volume 5 Annual #1. Venom versus Deadpool. When the forces of chaos call upon Venom and Deadpool, it becomes an issue of family and whose deserves to win the ultimate prize. It's symbiote might versus frankly awesome assassin skills in an epic showdown you won't want to miss. So I love Deadpool, and you throw Venom in there, and it's an annual, so it's a nice little one shot. There, yep, I'll check it out. That's it for my Marvels.
All right, we will we will jump over to DC, but we will kick it off with Katie. Do you have anything for DC Comics? If you're ready.
Sure. Yeah, there's a looks like a Halloween special. Ghouls just want to have fun. I thought that would be fun, coming out in October. Catchy title, of course. Yeah. Good for Halloween. Anyway, Ghouls just want to have fun from DC Comics.
Definitely. Jumping over to my top pick. I do have something else to talk about on here, just double checking. But the thing that I am super excited about is a brand new run on Birds of Prey, because one of my favorite writers in modern comics is Kelly Thompson. I've talked about probably everything that she's done over at Marvel. She's done some independent stuff as well. I've talked about everything that she's done on the in comics. So I will probably be talking about Birds of Prey #1, Kelly Thompson, Leonardo Romero. Every mission matters. Every life saved is a miracle, but this time it's personal. Dinah Lance is one of DCU's most elite fighters, and combined with her sonic scream, she's a fearsome foe in any scenario. But sometimes even the Black Canary needs help. Faced with the personal mission brought to her by a mysterious new ally and up against near impossible odds, she reforms the Birds of Prey with an unrivaled group of badasses: Cassandra Cain, Big Barda, Zealot, and Harley Quinn. And only one goal: extraction without bloodshed. What could possibly go wrong? Kelly Thompson, I don't know, because she had just finished her run on the awesome 50-issue run of Captain Marvel that I talked about, I think, on the last episode we recorded. And I don't know if this is if she's now signing an exclusive DC contract or if she's has an open contract. But her working at DC, she's done, I think, maybe a short story in the Harley Quinn Black, White, and Red, the first round, I think. But yeah, her taking on a brand new build is ongoing, I believe. I am super on board. She is so good at writing, a cast of characters, an ensemble cast, and having all of these characters from the Birds of Prey. And this book's going to be a lot of fun. Breaking hearts and faces. The Birds of Prey are back. Kirby?
The rest of my DCs are ongoing, except for I am gonna get Ghouls Just Want to Have Fun, which I'm hoping next month has more Halloween stuff, because there wasn't much Halloween this month, which kind of made me worry. But the only other one I am picking up is a Batman #1 Facsimile edition, because they have a blank cover and I want to draw a design on it. So, but yeah, the rest of mine are ongoing. So.
Cool. Anything from DC for you, Katie, yet?
Sure. My last one is the Batman Gargoyle. I was just picking that out based off of the title, and it has a awesome creative team on it. Looks kind of neat. I'd give it a shot. So the Batman Gargoyle book, #1.
It's Gargoyle of Gotham.
And I think that's it from DC. Yes.
Gargoyle of Gotham, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Yep. Yeah, that is on my list as well. And I got a feeling, I'm not sure if that would be something on Jim's list, probably. But yeah, Batman Gargoyle of Gotham #1, that is on my list as well. And I think the last one on my list and last one for the DC on this round will be Wonder Woman #1. Tom King is jumping on the book alongside Daniel Sampier. After a mysterious Amazonian is accused of mass murder, Congress passes the Amazon Safety Act, barring all Amazons from the U.S. soil. To carry out their plans, the government starts a task force, the Amazon Extradition Entity, also known as AXE, A-X-E, to remove those who don't comply by any means necessary. Now, in her search for the truth behind the killing, Wonder Woman finds herself an outlaw in the world she once swore to protect. Tom King's writing it, brand new start on Wonder Woman. Amazing selection of covers to choose from. Tom King has a history background as a former CIA agent, so when looking at certain things that's going on with these government issues and task force and all the stuff that he's kind of implementing for this run, I think that's a very good subject for Tom King to explore within the Wonder Woman book. But yep, I'm on board for a brand new Wonder Woman #1. All right, that is going to close the book on Marvel and DC. If you haven't checked out those catalogs, do it for yourself, because there's many more things that we just do not have enough time to cover every single one. So it's always worth checking it out for yourself. Speaking of not having time for everything, we open up this giant catalog, the previews, the Diamond Preview catalog here, which apparently has Darkwing Duck related material on both sides of the cover, with Darkwing Duck, Nega Duck, as well as some action figures. So yep, Dynamite is definitely owning both sides of the giant catalog this month. Since I just had that one, we'll kick it off with Kirby on the independent preview catalog. Go.
Serial trade paperback by Ahoy Comics. What We Do in the Shadows meets Monster Squad in the stark, distinctly adult and loving, funny take on an earlier generation's beloved monsters. The Marquis de Coco, recently transformed into a vampire, braves the agony of sunrise to throw his famous breakfast parties. where he plays his deadly games with such oddly familiar characters as the Quaker, Bewberry, and the Brute, featuring lush, evocative art by Peter Snydberg. This volume collects every chapter from Ahoy's Edgar Allan Poe anthologies, plus an all-new three-part conclusion. I wanted to check out the Edgar Allan Poe anthologies. They looked really interested. Now this way I can get them all and a little extra bonus. So I'm going to check it out. And I love the cover, just reminds me of Mike Mignola. It's got that Hellboy look.
Cool. Katie?
All right, so at Boom, I'm looking at the Klaus Complete Edition hardcover for $60, written by Grant Morrison. This tells the story of the man who would become Santa Claus before he was Santa Claus. They put out a Klaus winter special and a bunch of reprints every year around Christmas time and winter time, and I've always wanted to read it, but I haven't yet, so this seems like a good chance to do so. There were also two smaller Klaus trade paperbacks that I think come out to being the same price. But if you are, choosing between groceries and comic books, you can probably get them for a little bit cheaper that way. But Klaus, the complete edition hardcover from Boom Comics.
Excellent. Over at Simon & Schuster Books for Young Readers, Molgoth graphic novel. This is written and drawn by Kate Leth. Kate Leth, I've talked about their work on Spell on Wheels, which was a fun independent witch miniseries. I follow her online, like comic strips and stuff like that. So I was excited to see some new work here. Molgoth. Liv Holm is not exactly thrilled to be moving to a new town with her mother. After all, high school can be brutal, even more so when you're a 15-year-old bisexual goth. But Liv is determined to be who she is, bullies or not. Still, being the new kid and the only out student brings her a lot of unwelcome attention, and Liv flounders in her search for community. The only person who makes time for her is one of her teachers, but Liv isn't sure how to feel about the way he behaves towards her. Thankfully, she's found the perfect escape, the mall. Under its fluorescent lights, Liv feels far away from her parents' strained marriage and the peers who don't understand her. Amid the bright storefronts, food court smell, yum, I added that part, and anonymous shoppers, Liv is safely one of the crowd and can enjoy the feeling of calling the shots in her own life for once. With the help of her suburban refuge, Liv sets off on a journey of self-acceptance and learns to navigate the ups and downs of high school and to recognize true friendship. This is available in both soft and hardcover. Like I said, fan of Kate and doing all of the work on this book here. So excited to see her in the previews again. That is Molgoth graphic novel. Kirby?
Creepshow, Volume 2, Number 1 by Image Comics. Miniseries premiere. The smash hit horror anthology based on the hit Shudder TV series is back and creepier than ever. In the debut issue, Master of the Macabre, Garth Ennis, and Becky Cloonan team up for the very first time to deliver a disturbing tale of the unborn. Then Freaky Phil Hester tells the story of a grieving son who bends the laws of nature to see his mother one last time. This can't end well. Each issue of Creepshow Volume 2 will feature different creative teams. Oh, yeah. But yeah, I love the first volume of the Creepshow. I didn't get to see the series yet, but I'm looking forward to the second.
All right, Katie?
I think that's it for me this round. Thanks, though.
Okie doke. I will talk about the E-Junkie trade paperback, a spotlight over at where are we talking? I think it's Scout Comics. Scout Comics. In the year 2055, technology has transformed the human experience using nerve-reading devices to share dreams and emo regs to filter and regulate emotions, leading pain and suffering to become commodities in the world that has made them virtually illegal. But a growing group of addicts called e-junkies contribute to seek every kind of human experience by using drugs containing other people's memories, including painful ones, in the form of an alternative drug known as torch. when Hector Holmes, a disgraced investigator and e-junkie, nearly overdoses on Torch. His previous partner from the Alternative Reality Investigation Squad requests to help to stop the Guardians of Pain, a terrorist group distributing Torch to wake people to the Guardians of Pain. Nope, I just read the same line over again. To wake people to a painful and buried past in an effort to start a revolution. As Hector's mind unravels, he must confront a forgotten and painful past to stop a horrific future. This is a trade paperback collecting the full story, 256 pages. The reason why I highlighted this is we talked about the artist and co-creator of this. Well, first we have Nicholas Tana, but also artist Kyle Fenrick, who is from the Oh Yeah Comics Skokie crowd. Myself and Kirby, we talked about, I think it's called Return Home. The comic I picked up from his table, his own creator-owned comic, and he's been promoting E-Junkie. And E-Junkie, I picked up an ash can not too long ago from Oh Yeah Comics, but the one I'm holding in my hands is something I just picked up from Oh Yeah Comics as well. Hey, look how quick that was there. We got some more Kyle Fenrick stuff going on. And but this one just came out. I think Scout has a model where they release basically the first issue of a series, but then it's released as a trade paperback. So in a way, it's kind of a a little sampling, and so I don't think there's plans for future issues. I think this is it, and then basically, if you like this, then you can jump on in for the complete story in the trade paperback. So I just picked up this longer version from him. I haven't had time to read this because I just got it last night. But as someone who was just in the room with the artist of this book, I highly recommend E-Junkie trade paperback, or you can pick up this issue number 1 sample, I guess you would call it, which is out now at comic book shops. E-Junkie.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out. I'm glad you said that. I didn't realize that was his work. So
Yep, looking through it, just kind of flipping through and just seeing those designs. This time you got some color going on and everything, but you see his skulls and all the kind of stuff that he's influenced by seems to be part of this as well. So
another friend of ours, Jeff Belkey, wrote and colored this thing, and art is done by Walter Carzone. But we got John Carpenter presents Storm Kids, Stanley in the Haunted House. Well, it says trade paperback. I thought they were just comics, but from Storm King Productions, Stanley and friends are sitting around a campfire, eating s'mores and telling ghost stories. Bandit, being a curious raccoon, wonders if ghosts are real. He asks his friends what they think. Everyone believes in them but Stanley. Well, there's only one way to find out for sure. They decide, and that's to spend the night in a haunted house, like Bunny Burrow Manor. Natasha brings her camera to take pictures of the things that go bump in the night, but it's not just bumps they hear. Will this make a believer out of Stanley? You'll have to join Stanley and friends on this new adventure to find out. The first issue, they got to explore a certain haunted style house issue, and the second issue, they got to deal with the haunted forest. And so yeah, these are fun, and Jeff Belkey, I'll support anything he does.
Cool. And then I just want to confirm one more time before we keep moving forward. I think Katie, you said you were done for all of them, or just a round?
I actually found one. I just hadn't gotten all the way through the previous catalog yet. So from Dark Horse, we have the latest series of Witcher comics. So we have The Witcher Wild Animals #1. It is featuring the comics debut of Ukrainian artist Natalia Rarikina, who has won some other awards. This is in shop September 20th, and it will cost you $4. Bartosz Stysbor returns for another round writing the Witcher comics. This is the Witcher video games, just if anyone's wondering, not the Netflix show. Generally, I've enjoyed them. They've all been pretty good. The Witcher Wild Animals #1. Check it out.
Cool. And if you're filling out your Crimson Cowl bingo card, I know we already checked it off earlier in the episode, but we are once again mentioning Brenna Thumler, because over at Oni Press, we have the sequel to the book Sheets, the sequel to the book Delegates, with the brand new 3rd graphic novel to conclude this series called Lights by Brenna Thumler, the long-awaited final installment in the acclaimed cartoonist Brenna Thumler's best-selling Sheets trilogy. Marjorie's life was forever changed the day she discovered a group of ghosts hiding in her family's laundromat. One of those ghosts was Wendell, a lonely phantom turned Marjorie's best friend. Wendell died far too young and now must wander the land of humans. He knows how he died, a tragic drowning accident, but lately he's grown curious about his past life. He wants to know more about why he died, not just how he died. It's not easy, though, since Wendell's memory of his human life has grown increasingly blurry. When he hears a rumor about his death, Wendell wonders if it might not have been an accident after all. Joined by Marjorie and ghost enthusiast Eliza Duncan, who we got introduced to in the Delicates book, um, Wendell learns that sometimes everything casts shadows, but if you look hard enough, you can find the light. Now, there's an awesome feature. They're really giving her a lot of space in here. You got the page I just talked about that shows all the information for all the graphic novels, those first two that are offered again. You got an interview with Brenna Thumler, which I will be reading after this club. You've got a couple pages, 3 pages of preview in here. I was excited just to see all of the Sheets love that Diamond Previews was giving to her through Oni Press. And I know she's on a journey right now in another country for the summer. I'm not sure how long that's lasting with stuff that she's doing in her life, but I am going to reach out to her and see if she wants to try to come on the Crimson Cowl show when Lights is ready to come out. We can kind of talk about it in a non-spoiler fashion. But yeah, I'm not sure how long her journey is going to be over what she's doing, or if she even does this at all. But I will reach out and wave the Wendell flag and see and show off all the merchandise and prints that I bought too, being like, remember me? I want to come on the show. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But regardless, I'm so excited for Lights, because that means leading up to it, I get to reread Sheets and Delicates again. So that's a book series that I will never stop talking about. That is Lights by Brenna Thumler.
Yeah, same here. We got Kent Menace versus Techno Freak #1 by Brilliant Enterprises LLC. He is known by many names: Mysterious Mariner, Supernatural Sailor, Weird Hero. He is Kent Menace, sailor of the ghostly Pangaean Sea and comic book hero turned reality's champion. And from modern day Greece to the darkly futuristic London town, he is faced with the strange powers of the cybernetic sleuth of the future, John Sherlock, the Techno Freak. Or is he? Could it be the sinister Silver Ager, aka the comic booker, who is twisting reality and these dark heroes' very lives at his whim? Featuring an epic story by John Charles, scripted by creators John Charles and Scott Braden, and with amazing art by master illustrator Frank Fosco. This comic also includes original scripts, process art, and more bonus materials. What else is there to say but huzzah? The only thing I don't like, it's a heavy price tag, retailing at $9.99, and with it just saying #1 and not saying one shot. I'm like, do I wait for a trade? But they do have extra bonuses. But the Techno Freak character is awesome. He's the one that has that little mischievous robotic cat that hangs out with him. So I know Eric would like that character too.
Nice. Did you find any more in the flipping through the pages at all, Katie?
No, I am done this time for real. Thanks, though.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Appreciate it.
Staying over at Oni Press, I'm excited to talk about Wrapped Up, the complete collection by Dave Scheit and Scoot McMahon. Mummies, vampires, kaiju, oh my! The beloved middle grade monster sensation, now in one complete volume from creators Dave Scheit from Mayor Goodboy and Scoot McMahon from Sammy the Samurai Squirrel. Milo, and I'll mention Agents of Slam. I'm going to throw that in there as well. Milo is just your average 12-year-old boy. His loving parents are mummies, his best friend is an old wizard, and his babysitters are witches. When Milo isn't busy at school or visiting the comic book store, he loves to hang out with cool teen vampires, play with magical kitties, feed a hungry kaiju, and avoid a love-crazed gorilla at all costs. You know, typical kid stuff. So this has an awesome blurb. It's a short blurb, but it's from somebody awesome. Great fun, says, I don't know if you say it, Dave or Dav Pilkey, who is the creator of Captain Underpants and Dogman. So that's high praise out there. Those are very popular series. And wrapped up, there's 2 trade paperback volumes. I know we talked about some of those on this very podcast, but looks like this is going to be the complete collection in a soft cover coming out. I think it is scheduled for September. Yep, it is scheduled for September as well. So yeah, wrapped up, has the Crimson Cowl approval. So check it out. It's fun stuff.
And we got Kid Slapshot versus the Lunatic, #1 one shot by Keen Spot Entertainment, and some guy named Troy
Dungaroos?
Dungera.
Dunkaroos?
Kid Slapshot has been put through the ringer by the cosmic entity known as Looky Loo. But Loo's crimes have finally caught up to him, and another cosmic entity has stepped in to level the playing field. Now Kid Slapshot has power. Will he make short work of poor Lou, or will his impulsive nature and immaturity prevent him from getting the job done? Either way, it's going to be weird. Don't miss this issue, as it'll set up Slappy and his gang to move forward in a fun new direction. Includes bonus pullout poster. And poor Lou, eh? Gives the guy power and he just gets abused.
I was going from backwards in the catalog, and that is literally the next tab that I had. So you beat me to it. It is the reason why I'm wearing the shirt today, so we can throw some extra press for the next Kid Slapshot issue. Lots of awesome covers, including a variant cover, which I believe is cover D from Matt Rogers from Happy Astronaut. So it's cool to see him in the lineup. But there's a lot of cool ones to choose from there. So, yep, Kid Slapshot, Constant Fun from Troy Dungera. And I have a feeling we might be able to get him on the show when this comes out. I gotta talk to his agents and talk to the really try to put the feelers out there and see.
Yeah, I got 4 of the covers in my cart right now. I can't decide if I'm going to take any of them away or not.
Well, I have all of them in the cart because I did find out that art that I showed off in the episode when Troy was on this very podcast back in late January, I think it was. That art is going to be printed in there, so I'm like, well, now I guess I have to buy all the covers. So yeah, there's a lot of cool ones to choose from, and yeah, they're out there. All right, let me keep going backwards in the catalog. Here's something that was too Jay Leno. Here's something in the news. Project Cryptid #1. This is from Grant Morrison and Various. Art by PJ Holden, Jordi Perez, and this is a new Ahoy anthology series featuring Bigfoot, Yetis, Nessies, Jersey Devils, and more. Ahoy presents a deep dive into all the things cryptid, legendary, tall tale, and fanciful, written by some of your favorite writers. Issue 1 features Mark Russell, who I love, Mark Russell's Yeti, and Paul Cornell's Mongolian Deathworm. Also, to celebrate Ahoy's 5th anniversary, all books from September to November feature an epic multi-writer prose story starting here. I didn't know about that. With the 7-page opening chapter by Grant Morrison. That's where his name comes in. So yeah, I didn't notice the Grant Morrison name when I picked it originally, because the Mark Russell name is what, beyond seeing cryptid, but Mark Russell's name definitely drew my attention here. So yeah, this is an anthology series, Project Cryptid #1 from Ahoy. Kirby?
We got Memoirs of the Morbid Red Edition by Comicsburg. Homage to classic horror of the 40s and 50s, Tales from the Crypt or Creep Show. This anthology holds 5 self-contained horror stories, bookended by a parody of classic horror narrators. And it just says the Ghoul Master at the end. Doesn't give us what the stories are about, but if you look at the cover they show, one thing says the succession clause. Another one says the trench coat killer. We got the do-gooder, and we got kisses cold as the grave. And then the main cover is coaxial that has a squirrel that's eating another squirrel's head while a lady holds her cat looking out the window. So yeah, that'll be interesting.
That sounds like something that you would pick.
Yep.
All right, I had a tab on this page, and now I gotta look to see. Oh yeah, this is what I was talking about. Now I saw this title and I saw this cover, and I don't recognize the name. I have no idea. I know I saw this somewhere, probably through like Twitter, maybe a friend retweeted it or something, possibly from Comic Book Couples Counseling Podcast, not just because one of their names is the first name of this. Long setup to talk about Lisa Cheese and Ghost Guitar Volume 1 Attack of the Snack. All of those words just sound fun. Lisa Cheese moved to Earth City, hoping to make a name for herself as a folk singer, but her very first open mic was a disaster, leaving her with a bionic arm and an identity crisis. Now she's starting a crummy office job. Her parents are back in their home dimension, are laying on the guilt trip. Her sister's acting smug, and the cool girl at the record store leaves leaves her tongue tied. But none of that will matter if the city's demonic new burger corporation achieves its evil ambitions. Lisa's very life is at stake. Fortunately, she has allies. The astounding first graphic novel from artist musician Kevin Alver is packed with off the charts creativity and electric energy, blending vintage comic book aesthetics with contemporary concerns and crusty lo-fi passion. Once you meet Lisa Cheese, you'll never be the same. I don't know. It's like a unicorn, the cybernetic arm, drinking from a big gulp, and her name's Lisa Cheese. Like, I don't know. That just sounds like a bunch of weird stuff going on at once, and I definitely have to get that. So that is I just have to look back at the tabs here. I think it's under IDW, I believe. Yeah, it's next to the turtle stuff here. So yeah, Lisa Cheese and Ghost Guitar. Attack.
All right. We got Mercy Sparks. Oh, she's back. $1.99 special by Devil's Due Publishing. Introducing Mercy Sparks to a brand new audience. This $1.99 special offers a perfect jumping on point for those new to Heaven's Secret Fixer and sneak peek at the next releases. The world met Mercy 15 years ago with the launch of the issue number 0 discount special, and now the tradition continues. Contains pages from the new No More Angels Left to Fall, a recap of Mercy's history, and more. She's Heaven's Devil, and apparently 15 years between issues 0 to 1. I gotta see what's happening. Since it's a cheap comic, I'll look at it.
There we go. The next thing I'm talking about, there's a lot of interesting things, some conflicting things I didn't expect to see. Harriet Tubman, Demon Slayer #1. And just when I was just kind of trying to digest that title, there's a blurb here that says Disney Plus, soon to be a series on Disney Plus. And I'm like, what is all this adding up to? This is Django Unchained meets Buffy the Vampire Slayer and David Crownson's Harriet Tubman, Demon Slayer, a supernatural comic series based on the true life of the freedom fighter herself that is flavored with the genre liberties in the spirit of Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter, a movie I proudly saw in theaters. When slave owners can't stop the formidable ninja warrior Harriet Tubman, they call on the help of vampires, werewolves, witches, and demons to stop her. Harriet Tubman must lead a family of slaves to freedom while battling an army of darkness. There's a lot of Michonne from the Walking Dead vibes going on with some of these cover images and such, and this is, like I said, I still can't just digest what I'm reading here, especially when they had the Disney Plus logo on there. It's like, what's happening? So yeah, apparently Harriet Tubman is going to be a Disney Plus series as well. But here's a comic book from David Crownson, and I will check it out over at whatever this publisher is called, Massive Publishing. There's a lot of new publishers in the book, so I'm trying to piece all this together. All right.
We got Santos Sisters Halloween special by Floating World Comics.
Yes.
This Halloween, the town folks of Las Brisas do not know it yet, but something scary is coming for them. Luckily, Ambar and Alana have their friends Casey and Vlad from Hack and Slash, Mercy Sparks, who I just talked about, and the Gut Ghost to help on this All Hallows Eve. Printed in full color on decadent newsprint. I never thought Gut Ghost or Hack and Slash would end up in this world, so I don't know Mercy Sparks yet, but I will. And I'm like, yeah, I've been following Santos Sister. I think we're up to issue 5 so far. So I like these. And if you like the Archie style, but you want a little adult version, that's what they are. It's fun.
I just can't wait till Lisa Cheese joins that world too, maybe. um, yeah, I'm excited for that. And the first time I heard about Santos Sisters was through Tim Seeley. So that started because I think the Santos Sisters creators are Chicago local, if I'm not mistaken. I think that they kind of live in that realm. So, but yeah. This one I'm excited to talk about, a series premiere called Kill Your Darlings #1 from Image Comics, story by Ethan Parker and Griffin Sheridan. 8-year-old Rose loves nothing more than to play pretend in a magical land of her own creation. To her, that world is as real as our own, from her fluffy friends to the terrible evil that lurks at the center of it all. In one night, the line between fantasy and reality will disappear, an ancient hunger will feed again, and Rose will be pulled into a gruesome saga that began centuries before her birth. This here is something that I dug the cover and the title and all that stuff, but then I saw it was Ethan and Griffin, who are the gentlemen who are part of the Ryan Stegman and His Amazing Friends, that whole podcast series and Substack stuff and all the stuff they do under that banner. They've had the aspiration of making comics. They were young Spider-Man fans when Ryan Stegman is working on Superior Spider-Man and such, and eventually got to meet him and get to the point where they worked for him and with their publishing company and working with Donnie Cates and all them over at their Vanish, talking about that Vanish book and kind of launching their stuff. And both Ethan and Griffin have had these dreams of working on their own comics, something I've been hearing about for a couple years since I've been following them. And I, missed the news on this, and I just happened to look, being like, "Oh, what's this?" And I saw their names, and I was pleasantly surprised to see that. And so I'm pretty excited for that brand new series premiere from these creators. And yeah, Kill Your Darlings #1.
Doesn't John J. Hill have his hands in that too?
Yeah, he's done some stuff I know with crossover, and like he's part of that kind of collective group, and I think he's like one of like the overall like designers and like big people. Now, Kirby just jumped out of the screen. He did tell me at the beginning of the show, which was an hour and a half ago, that his iPad was running on low. So I am guessing that just happened, everybody. If you're listening to the podcast, that explains it. If you're watching the video on YouTube, which subscribe if you're just listening on iTunes, you'll see that his window went out as we were talking. So he'll probably send me a message on Facebook, but we're gonna go forward because he did tell me that ahead of time. But that 5% battery lasted like an hour and a half. That's pretty good.
Yeah, right. The Kill Your Darlings book sounds good. I'm glad you highlighted it.
Yeah, it's super cool. I mean, I was getting some vibes from like I Hate Fairyland, and I know they're friends and fans of Scotty Young and stuff, and part of that, Midwest collective and stuff like that. But yeah, just to see those two guys and like, it's a constant joke about them, with being younger guys and just being fans of. I think they've done the joke of saying like, oh, we read your Spider-Man comics in high school, and that just makes him feel old, when you have somebody who is saying that and stuff. But like, they've all become friends, and they're part of their big production company they have over there. So
nice.
I was just excited to see like, hey, they're launching a comic book. So
cool. Yeah, I empathize with the idea of your imaginary world feels more real than the real world, because honestly, some days it does. Some days I wish it was more real than the real world.
Just had an alert, just checking if it was Kirby there. But yeah, it's a cool concept. I love the title, love the cover. Ryan Stegman has a cover B. So yeah, I think that is it on that. I will take us home with, I think I have two of them here.
Okay.
This one I was surprised. I know nothing about, but it's Jack Kirby's Star Warriors: The Adventures of Adam Star and the Solar Legion one
Hmm.
shot. It's Jack Kirby like you've never seen him before. Jack Kirby's first cosmic hero, the pirate hunter Adam Star, is back in this deluxe remix of Kirby's first space epic series. See Adam Star as a Solar Legion of Star Warriors in a battle to the death with killer space pirates, Black Michael, Arthak, and their evil armadas. It's a
Hmm.
rip-roaring space adventure with giant man-eating space worms, gargantuan alien killer fish, and planetary nuclear annihilation. Yeah, I know nothing
That
about
sounds
this.
cool.
Yeah, and it looks, oh, hey, looks like we have a special guest coming on the show here. Let's see who's behind curtain number one. He's not going to hear this until he watches it back and listens to it. So let's take a look behind curtain. He's connecting the audio, so I don't know if he can hear me, but I'm waiting to tell my joke. Let's check behind curtain number one to see who our special guest is here. Hey, it's Kirby.
Here's Kirby.
Yeah, battery died on the other computer.
The host of the Under the Cowl of MS podcast is here for a special appearance here. I don't know. We had Kirby on the show earlier, but now we have Under the Cowl of MS. So welcome to the show. I assumed I mentioned that, like, well, you told us about that, so we're still in the previews at the moment.
Hey,
But yeah,
what did you do one since I left?
so we were finishing up the Darlings one. Katie chimed in with some stuff, and we talked about that a little bit. And then my next one was Jack Kirby's Star Warriors, which I'm just finishing up. I know nothing about this, and it's some recreation, I don't know what decade this is from, but it's bringing it back out into publication. It's just crazy to buy what I'm calling a new comic that says story by Jack Kirby and art by Jack Kirby and Tom Scioli. Tom Scioli. Oh, okay. That name is familiar because Tom, I believe, is the one
I
that
know that name.
you did the Jack Kirby graphic novel, like memoir type of thing
Right.
where I talked about that, and I think he was a guest on Comic Book Couples Counseling podcast as well. So Tom Scioli, I'm trying to remember if that's how you pronounce it or not, but yeah, I know nothing about Jack Kirby's Star Warriors, but hey, bringing it into the new age and letting people know about this, what they call Jack Kirby's first space epic series. So yeah, I just finished my that pick. I have one more, but do you have anything else yet?
Yeah, Signal 29, #1 shot by Blood Moon Comics. Two New Orleans medics respond to a seedy motel to pronounce a dead body, which isn't quite as dead as it seems. Signal 29 is a one shot that takes a unique and more intimate approach to the zombie genre, where the reader joins a pair of first responders as they encounter Patient Zero as the dead begin to rise. I like zombies, so I get into anything I can get my hands on.
Cool. Let's see here. The last thing on my list was the first part of the catalog, as I've made my venture from back to Frontier. Firefly, The Fall Guys, a brand new miniseries here. I was excited to see Sam Humphries, awesome Marvel and DC writer, attached to this, illustrated by Jordi Perez. Let's see here. The crew is broke and out of luck and will have to deal with some less than trustworthy associates if the Serenity is going to keep flying. What seems like an easy job in town for half the crew is primed to turn sideways with feds, uneasy locals, and a high-profile politician in the mix. But yeah, more Serenity. We had a lot of awesome runs at Boom. I've dug them all. I was a little bummed after the last one kind of, ended. I wasn't sure where it was going, if something was happening with the licensing or anything, but it was exciting to see the brand new miniseries pop up. So Firefly, The Fall Guys. That completes mine. So if you have any more, Kirby, you can take us home.
All right, I got Usagi Yojimbo, Ice and Snow #1 by Dark Horse Comics. Usagi and his cousin Yukichi are still in the snowy mountaintops of northern Japan. Following Stan Sakai's Usagi Yojimbo story arc, The Green Dragon, they are led to the hut of a strange woman hermit who allows them to spend the night. Meanwhile, the maniacal G and his familiar, Kiko, are on Usagi's trail when they stumble upon a bandit lair and subdue the band of cutthroats and thieves. I'm happy to see there's another new Usagi run. So I'm going to check that out. And then we got Weapon Brown Aftershock trade paperback, Little Red, by Death Ray Comics. The shocking sequel to Weapon Brown, Jason Youngblood's outrageous post-apocalyptic lampoon of the funny pages. When a desert prophet drops in on a town of Dog Patch, he won't leave until he learns the truth behind the legend of Weapon Brown and settles some unfinished business. This Little Red edition of Aftershock is black and white with striking spot reds and is the only edition that will be colored in this manner. And each copy is, well, there's a 1,000 print run or whatever. But I don't know much about that character, so I was interested in checking that out. Zombie Terrors has a new Undead Special #1 one-shot by Asylum Press. The flesh-eating anthology is back just in time for Halloween. In bloody good time, desperate and alone, an undercover cop tries to make his way out of a biker club. Definitely not the groovy night he was looking for. Story by Mark Kidwell, script by Jeff Vigil, and art by Tim Vigil. In Cellar Dwellers, a serial killer gets his just desserts when the bodies buried in the cellar rise again. Written and illustrated by Dwayne Harris. In Survival, written by Pablo Berberi, and art by In Cosplay Sacrifice. I think they screwed that up. But in Cosplay Sacrifice, a group of fanboys has to fight against a horde of cosplay zombies who are dressed as their comic book heroes, written and illustrated by Frank Forte. Sounds like a nice, fun little array of things. Did you mention Rumpus Room?
No, but it is on my list because that has an all red cover, correct?
Yes. That's the reason I was going to get it. The basis of it is Mark Russell returns to AWA with his latest dark satire with art by Ramon Rosanas. Meet Bob Shrunk, technocrat billionaire, collector of bad art, and victim of a hideous skin condition that can only be treated with a highly illicit and definitely not FDA approved face cream that must be harvested from human beings. Bob isn't unfair, though. He's happy to let his guests select who will be next to be sent from the rumpus room to their dorm. There's just one thing Bob doesn't know. One of his current guests is an undercover cop, and she's carrying a concealed gun. And did you mention the new Chilling Adventures comic that was out?
That I didn't, but it's on my list as well.
Okay. Chilling Adventures presents Madam Satan, Hell on Earth #1, one shot by Archie Comics. After Madam Satan waged war on Baxter High, hell descended upon Earth, and even she isn't safe. Madam Satan seeks refuge from the forces of Lucifer in a random suburban home, and who she meets there is surprising. But is this powerful person a friend or foe? And can the two of them work together to summon eldritch terrors and stop Satan's rampage? That's it for me, other than what I reviewed on Under the Cowl.
Cool. So yeah, I think that is going to do it for the July catalogs. Once again, we cannot cover everything, but we covered some of the top things that we were excited for. So definitely check in with your local comic book shop. Ask for the catalogs. Check with your online retailers wherever you fill out your orders, because pre-orders are important to let the retailers and the creators and the publishers and everybody know that you want their comics and you can get your copies reserved for you. So that is going to do it for another preview as well as another edition of the Crimson Cowl Comic Club. As a little teaser, just in case people start turning it off when I go into the plugs here, I'm going to give this teaser up front. On our next recorded episode, myself and Kirby will be talking about the brand new comic Svengoolie Lost in Time, which will be attached to my recent meet and greet with Svengoolie himself. And if you're listening to the audio, you're missing the awesome art cards that Kirby's been doing through the Under the Cowl of MS channels. He's holding up some cool Svengoolie stuff. But yeah, he was signing at Oh Yeah Comics in beautiful downtown Skokie. And I'm holding this up, and just to try to get a tease for people to come back to the next episode, I'm going to show off the reveal here, but I'm not going to explain it in the audio version. So those people are going to be like, I got to go to YouTube to see what he's talking about, because I bought one of the random sketches that Art was throwing out there that people could purchase. And this is a quick little non-audio preview, so your YouTube audience get to see this really ridiculous sketch that Art did that I had to, I'm like, yep, that one is going in my collection. Hear more about whatever it is that I'm holding up by checking out Crimson Cowl Comic Club and all of these forums. CrimsonCowl.com for info and original webcomics. Crimson Cowl Comic Club on YouTube. Hit subscribe. You can see the video versions, which I think is the best version of the show. A lot more entertaining. Hellboy Book Club series is also on YouTube through this channel only, not audio. I think there are 3 up there now. We probably have another 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 recorded. We have a lot backlogged there just to kind of send them out when they're ready, but we do have 3 of them up for you to check out. The Crimson Cowl, all one word, on Instagram. Crimson Cowl Comic Club on iTunes for the audio. Please subscribe, rate, and review. Crimson Cowl Comic Club at yahoo.com if you want to email us and questions, concerns, or maybe fun questions we can answer here on the show. Kirby has a spin-off podcast, Under the Cowl of MS. Follow wherever you get your audio podcast, as well as on YouTube and all the social media channels that you can find them at. I myself have a Facebook and Instagram artist hobby accounts, Anthony Latch, LAATSCH. Got to take a breath here. And I also have Cartoonist by Night over on YouTube, a drawing show with myself, Matt Rogers, Matt Fife, and Troy Dungara. We've talked about 2 of the 3 of those people in this very episode, but check out Cartoonist by Night. We recently dropped an episode all about Archie comics, and I have a fun special reveal within that episode that I will expand upon in a future review here on this podcast, or you can get the sneak peek at it by hearing the whole story about it on Cartoonist by Night over on YouTube. That is going to do it for this episode. This whole time, I've been waiting to take out my little brother to go outside and pee. My little brother, by the way, is a puppy.
I've been howling at the moon with Man Goat and Goat Man.
And I've been chilling with the Fremen on Arrakis.
To be continued.
Thank you, Slimer.
Happy and his pal, a robotic stowaway named Half, are on a mission. Find whoever stole Half's missing pieces and get those pieces back. After promising each other that they'd pursue even the faintest of clues to the furthest of corners, our spacefaring duo have bounced from one adventure to the next, hoping that eventually they'll end up in the right place at the right time. Their next stop, a tiny little oasis on a giant planet of star-spewing volcanoes, a place where robots melt and humans bake, and magic-imbued stars rule the land, or so they think. Happy Astronaut is perfect for readers of all ages, filled with action, humor, and heart. This debut issue will have many exciting covers to choose from, including a blank sketch cover variant to commission your very own cover. Pre-order Happy Astronaut #1 from your local comic book shop or directly from KeenSpotShop.com.